The question arrives on a Saturday morning in the most ordinary possible way. You're making coffee, not thinking about anything in particular, and it just appears, the way questions sometimes do when you're not trying to have them. What if I had never upgraded anything? You stand at the counter for a moment. The coffee brews. You think about the question the way you think about something that seems simple, and then reveals itself to be anything but. What if, every time a raise came, you had just kept living exactly the way you were living the day before it arrived? You pour the coffee, you sit down, and you decide to find out. The first real raise came in April of 2016. You had been at the company for 2 years, and the increase was meaningful, not life-changing, but the kind of number that made you feel, for the first time, like the work was being taken seriously. You remember what you did with it. You didn't do anything dramatic. You didn't buy a car or book a vacation. What you did was move. Your apartment at the time was fine, a one-bedroom in a neighborhood you'd grown comfortable in, a walk to the grocery store, a 15-minute commute. The rent was $1,150 a month. You had learned to live there. You had stopped noticing its limitations, but the raise made a new calculation possible. With the extra income, you could afford the apartment you'd been looking at, the one with the in-unit laundry and the better light and the address in a neighborhood you'd always meant to live in. The rent was $14,700 a month, $320 more. You moved in July. Here is what $320 a month becomes over time. In 1 year, it's $340. In 5 years, it's $19,200. In the 8 years between that move and now, it's $30,720. Just in the rent difference, before you account for the higher cost of everything else that came with the better neighborhood. The nicer grocery store you started going to because it was closer. The bars and restaurants in walking distance that became your default because they were there. You write the number down. $30,720. You don't feel guilty. You feel something more complicated than that. The second raise came with a promotion. This time the increase was larger, the kind that changes your relationship with money, rather than just the balance of your account. You remember the feeling of reading the number in the offer letter, the particular lightness of it, and you remember, within 6 weeks of the new salary hitting your account, buying the car. Not an extravagant car, a sensible car, a reliable car, a car you'd researched for months and chosen carefully. The monthly payment was $387. Insurance went up by $94. Parking in the city where you lived cost $180 a month. In total, the car cost you approximately $664 more per month than the combination of public transit and occasional car shares you'd been using before. You loved the car. You still love the car. Here is what $661 a month becomes over the 6 years you've been paying for and maintaining it. $661 times 72 months is $47,592, not including maintenance and unexpected repairs, which have cost you an additional $4,300 across that period. You write $51,892 next to the car. Then you sit with the two numbers. $30,720 for the apartment upgrade. $51,892 for the car. $82,612. You haven't added anything else yet. 2020 brought its own particular disruptions, but it also brought a salary adjustment. Smaller than the previous raises but real, and it arrived at a moment when, because of the disruptions, you were already spending less than usual. You had a window. You could have kept it. You didn't keep it. What happened was subtler this time. No single large upgrade. Instead, a series of smaller ones that each made individual sense and collectively made something you didn't notice until you saw it in the numbers. The gym membership you upgraded from $25 a month to $95 a month because the better gym was near your office and you were finally going to get serious about this. You went regularly for 8 months, then less regularly. Then the membership became the thing you paid for as a tax on the intention, the streaming subscriptions. Not just one. You added 2 during the lockdown period and kept them both. Then added another. Then added a premium tier to one of the existing ones. $47 a month in subscriptions you'd had before the raise became $134 a month in subscriptions after it. And the increase happened so gradually across the year that you never felt a single one of the additions. The food delivery habit. Before 2020, you ordered delivery maybe twice a month. After 2020, twice a week became the quiet default. The average order was $38 after fees and tip. The difference between then and now is approximately $228 a month, $70 a month more on the gym, $87 more on subscriptions, $228 more on food delivery. That's $385 a month, times 48 months since that raise arrived, $18,480. You write it down. You open a new document and start adding. Rent upgrade, ongoing for 8 years, $30,720. Car, ongoing for 6 years including maintenance, $51,892. Small upgrades from 2020, ongoing for 4 years, $18,480. You pause before adding them, not because the math is complicated, because you already know what the sum is going to do to the morning. Total, $101,092. You stare at the number, then you do the second calculation, the one that asks not where the money went, but where it would have gone instead. If you had taken those amounts, not all at once but month by month, the way they actually left your accounts, and put them into a low-cost index fund at the historical average return, letting them compound for the relevant number of years, the number is not $101,092. The number, accounting for compound growth across the different time periods, is approximately $147,000. You close the laptop. You sit with $147,000 for a while. $147,000 is not a fantasy. It's not a windfall, or an inheritance, or a lucky bet. It is the accumulated difference between the life you chose and the life you could have kept, built slowly, automatically, month by month, in a fund you never would have had to think about. $147,000 is, at your current spending rate, approximately 3 years of living expenses. It's the thing that would let you leave a job you don't love without panic. It's the difference between a choice and a trap. Here is where the calculation becomes complicated, and you owe it to yourself to be complicated, not just to be dramatic about a number. The apartment was better. The light was genuinely better. You worked from home during the years that mattered most, and the space around you mattered in ways it hadn't before. You don't know, looking back, that you would have been the same person in the smaller place. The car made certain things possible. The job you took in 2021 required the car, or would have required a different kind of logistics that might have cost something else. You have memories tied to that car that don't have dollar values. The gym, even used imperfectly, contributed to something. The subscriptions brought evenings you needed. The food delivery happened on nights when you were genuinely depleted, and the alternative would have been something worse. None of this is nothing. But here is what the calculation shows you about yourself, and this is the part that stays. You didn't make most of these decisions. They made themselves. The apartment happened because the raise made it possible, and so you did it. The car happened because you'd always thought you'd get one when you could afford one, and now you could. The gym happened because that's what you do with extra money when you're thinking about health. The subscriptions happened one at a time, in moments when $8 a month didn't feel like a decision at all. None of these were chosen in the sense that you sat down with the full picture and decided this was the best use of the money. They were chosen in the sense that they became available and you took them. This is what lifestyle inflation actually is. Not extravagance, not irresponsibility. Just the automatic expansion of spending to match whatever income becomes available, quietly, reasonably, one sensible decision at a time, until you look up 10 years later and the number is $147,000. You try to imagine the other version. The one where, in April 2016, you got the raise and stayed in the apartment where you knew every creak of the floor, the shorter commute, the neighborhood you'd already mapped, the $1,150 rent that had already become invisible in your budget. It's hard to imagine, and the difficulty is it's self-revealing. The alternative universe feels like deprivation in a way that the actual past doesn't. You remember the old apartment as fine, but imagining choosing to stay, knowing you could leave, that feels like something you would have had to talk yourself into, had to resist, had to be deliberately disciplined about. And you weren't, in 2016, particularly disciplined. You were normal. You did the normal thing. You upgraded when you could because upgrading when you can is what people do, and nobody around you was doing anything different, and the apartment was nicer and you deserved it because you had worked for it. The word deserved is interesting. You've thought about it since you started doing this calculation. You deserved the raise. That's true. You earned the money through work that was real and effort that was real. The question is not whether you deserved it. The question is, what did deserving mean in practice? In practice, deserving the raise meant spending the raise, not saving it, not making a decision about it, just letting it flow into a slightly more expensive version of the life you were already living. There is another version of deserved. deserving the option to leave a job when it stops working for you, deserving 3 years of runway, deserving the particular freedom of $147,000 sitting somewhere, not doing anything flashy, just waiting. That version of deserved also exists. You just didn't choose it, because choosing it was never framed as a choice. You don't move out of the apartment. It's a good apartment. You don't sell the car. The car is useful, and you have memories in it, and practically speaking, it would require a restructuring of your life that isn't worth the disruption. What you do is smaller than that, and harder to explain to anyone who hasn't done the calculation. You stop treating raises as permission. The next time more money comes in, you don't let it expand anything. You don't stop spending. You keep the coffee, the gym, the dinners, the subscriptions. You keep the life you have. You just don't add to it. The raise goes to a separate account, not labeled with a goal, not pointed at a specific thing, just separate, present, accumulating. It's a boring adjustment. It doesn't feel like a victory. Nothing changes in your daily life except one automatic transfer every month to an account you barely look at. But the number in that account grows, and there is something about watching a number grow that you created deliberately, not by luck or inheritance or a stock pick, that is different from any of the upgrades you've made. The apartment is comfortable. The car is reliable. The subscriptions are fine. But the number in the account is yours in a way that the apartment and the car and the subscriptions are not. It's the version of deserved that nobody framed for you when the raise came in and you were standing in the elevator doing the math. You are framing it now, 10 years late, on a Saturday morning with a cup of coffee, looking at $147,000 that exists in a spreadsheet and does not exist in your bank account. But here is the thing about 10 years late. It is also 10 years early. And that number, the one that doesn't exist yet, is the most interesting thing you've looked at in a long time.